All right, today let's talk about fantasy football. Either you love it or you hate it, but either way, it's taking over the world. All right, so a couple thoughts on fantasy football. I think let me just start out and talk to the people who've never done it before. If you've never done fantasy football before, I highly suggest you give it a try. However, fair warning, you might become addicted. It might take over your life, but at least you'll know what the craze is all about. Even if you don't follow football necessarily that much, fantasy football is still a good way for you to bond with your friends, for you guys to join a private league together, for example, with you and 4 or 5 buddies, work buddies, maybe guys that you are in a recreational basketball league with, maybe just family or whoever. Just be in a league where you can chat, you can trash talk each other, you can keep track of scores. It's a way for people to come together, bond, and enjoy the game of football together. The next thing I want to discuss is whether you should play for money. So if you want to play for money, honestly, I would not suggest you doing it with friends and family because I think that kind of stuff it might lead to tricky situations, you know? So let's say, for example, that you and some of your best friends are in a league and you end up winning and all your friends have to pay, let's say it's for a large amount, let's say they have to pay you a couple $100. Let's say one of your friends doesn't do it, right? Then you get just sticky, tricky situations like that. But the point is, fantasy football should be fun. It should be something to do for fun, do it for pride. If you're competitive, just do it for the sake of winning. All right, let's talk about the actual, talk about this upcoming season in terms of fantasy football. The general idea of fantasy football, if you follow it enough, if you read up on it enough, is that you should take running backs first and foremost. Why? Because running backs usually end up scoring the most points, usually, and they also are in there's the highest scarcity. How many top elite running backs can you name, right? So that's a first general rule. Second general rule is depending on if it's a PPR league, so points per reception league. If it's a points per reception league, you want to value higher players, receivers, running backs who can catch the ball, etc. Basically, people who can catch the ball, you want to value them higher. Next general tip is quarterbacks. I would wait a while to take a quarterback. There's a lot of really good quarterbacks. The difference between a top quarterback of Peyton Manning and, for example, a Ben Roethlisberger, that difference in value. For example, Peyton Manning is probably going to go in the first round or second round. Big Ben might not go into like the 6th, 7th, 8th round, but the difference in value between picking, for example, a top running back in the first round and then Big Ben in like the 7th round versus Peyton Manning in the first round, and then let's say a second-tier running back in the second round. That's a difference right there. You get what I'm saying? It's all about value. It's all about value. Where you're getting players at, where you're picking them, where they're going, etc. Also, my next piece of advice is don't pick players that you think are going to be good because they dominated last year. Rarely does that. I mean, a lot of times it just doesn't work out that way for a number of reasons. Injuries. There's so much parity in the NFL. As you guys can tell, different teams make it to the playoffs every year. It's not the same. I would say try and think of who you think might be good, who has potential, who has sleepers. Because a person who picks the best, the person who is able to best predict the sleepers or who he thinks are going to be good, he's gonna have the highest potential. He's gonna run away and dominate. Like, for example, Nick Foles. Whoever ended up picking Nick Foles last year, let's say in like the last round of the league, and kept him and ended up using him, he got a steal. He got a player that got him so many points and probably won him games. So that's my advice in terms of fantasy football. I like ESPN over Yahoo. I think ESPN has a better interface. I like the settings more. I think ESPN is better. I'll give you guys some of the top players that I think I like for next year. I like RG3. I like Andrew Luck. I like Big Ben. I like Colin Kaepernick. I like Shane Vereen. I like Christine Michael of the Seahawks because he's backing Marshawn Lynch. I like Le'Veon Bell of the Steelers. I like Alshon Jeffrey of the Bears. I like Aaron Dobson of the Patriots. I like the usual suspects. Dez Bryant, I think Dez Bryant's going to blow up. I think if he already has. I like Dez Bryant, AJ Green, Calvin Johnson, Julio Jones. I like Rob Gronkowski and Jimmy Graham. If you can pick Jimmy Graham in the first round, bottom of the first round, I would pick Jimmy Graham. You know why? Because he's a difference maker. 16 touchdowns last year. He's a difference maker. The difference between him and the second overall fantasy player is huge. I like Jimmy Graham a lot. So those are some of my top players. I hope you guys all have a good upcoming fantasy football season. And that's it. Team Jack TV.